Welcome to The Sear Show. Join us as we explore medicine, health, mental health, mindset, and fitness, guided by lifelong seeker of knowledge, Sifu Raphael. He will lead us on a transformative journey with groundbreaking insights and extraordinary guests from around the world. Together, we'll dive into the latest holistic approaches to well-being and the profound connections between mind, body, and soul. Sifu Raphael's expertise in positive thinking, resilience, and personal growth will inspire you to reach new heights. Get ready for the Sear Show. It's time to embrace a brighter, healthier, and more empowered future.
5, 4, 0.
Hey, Brady, thank you so much for joining me. How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a beautiful morning. How are you?
Excellent. Love it. I'm exceptional, getting better every day.
Uh,
So I want to talk to you definitely about what you're doing and how you're helping not only our love for animals, but the people who actually love them as well. So I want to definitely get into that with you. Tell me a little bit about what you do and even how you got started with what you're doing.
yeah, of course. And I want your audience to know before we begin, if you have a dog, you're in the right place. We're going to talk about some dog training tips and tricks. And if you
Love
don't
it.
have a dog and you want to talk about leadership and the people part of it, I love nerding out about that too. So we're going to dive into that too over the next, maybe 60 minutes or so. And you mentioned it perfectly. I want to thank everyone for being here. I empower dogs, puppies, and their owners to have more success at home and around town while having a fun time. I think that's really important. And I let people know before we even begin that the average dog can learn 165 words. And that's
What?
like Pomeranians or Chihuahuas. Most people think they can't learn, or Border Collies and German Shepherds. Some people think they're the only ones that can learn, but everything in the middle can learn. So I have a good feeling most people's dog can learn 20 or 30 words and they just don't know it yet. So I'm here to help share and shed a little bit of light on that.
Huh. That's pretty incredible.
Thank you.
I didn't know that. So you're teaching me something already.
Yeah, we'll dive into pigs and other animals too, because they're also very capable of learning. So,
Really? Well, some people, here's the problem that I saw happening. People were getting into, oh, the pigs are so cute. They get big.
yeah,
They get big, and people like, I don't know what to do. So they were abandoning pigs, which is terrible.
yeah, we can address that right away because I worked at an animal nonprofit for abused and neglected animals.
Mm.
And there's a myth going around that you could buy a mini pig because pigs start off small. There's no such thing as a mini pig, everyone. They all grow up to big hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and
Right.
they're huge. And their bites, I've been bit by them before. They hurt.
Yeah,
So,
that's pretty crazy. So what inspired you to even get your love of animals? When did you realize that you had this passion for them?
yeah, the first memory that I remember, and I'm the oldest of 6. I grew up in a big family.
Mm,
There was an owl that got crash landed in our backyard in California, Temecula. And this owl got stuck in a kite or some string. I don't know what exactly happened. And I was probably like 8. And I
mm.
went and crawled underneath the bush. My parents like, don't touch the owl. It's dangerous. They called animal control. But sure enough, like if you tell me don't do something, I'm the type of person that's going to go and do it. I don't know if there's anyone else out there like that. But
Hello.
so I went out there and I untangled this owl, and animal control came, and then they took it away. But that was one of my first memories with animals. And we grew up with lots of dogs, but they were kind of wild animals that would run away a lot of the time. So when I was growing up and when I turned 22 years old, I wanted my own dog. And I was like, this is going to be nothing like my parents. My parents used a little bit more of intimidation, like old school dog training methods, right? And I'm like, I'm I'm gonna give my dog all the love. He's gonna sleep in my bed, and I'm gonna have the
Right.
best treats and all these things. I'm just gonna bribe the crap out of him.
Right.
And what ended up happening is I went out to hang out with friends, maybe about 6 months in, and I came home and this smell hit me. And I was like, something's wrong. And I open up my door, and sure enough, there's poop everywhere, and a chunk of my carpet's missing. And my dad's Father's Day present, this leather toiletry bag that I got him, he had gotten into, and my Tools of Titans Tim Ferriss book, he had ripped out the first 30 pages. So I was like, you couldn't pick the old book? Like, you had to pick the brand new book, man. And that was my rock bottom. I don't know if anyone here listening right now has already hit their rock bottom or they're approaching it. But that was my personal rock bottom, where I was like, I need to find someone who can help me, because I don't want to use intimidation. I don't want to use bribes. Like, none of those have given me a good thing. Like, there's got to be something else. And that's where like these games and being a dog trainer that inspires growth and challenges their dogs elegantly came into play. So now I've taught a pig how to paint. She's raised over $10,000 for this nonprofit. I've trained my dog how to open up the fridge, get a beer, and bring it to me, and then go shut the fridge, because we're not a bunch of wild animals, you know?
That's great.
And my littlest puppy, who's 8 months old now, she's learning how to ride a skateboard, which I'm sharing on TikTok, that journey. So we're like 35 days in, and she's already shredded. So sky's the limit now.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. It reminded me when I had my dog. It was named Domino.
Okay.
And the many years ago, it was a black and white, so I named him Domino. Right.
I love it.
It was a female, and I adopted her. I got her at a shelter, and I remember, I got a cage, and I didn't get a cage right away, right? But what I did is I brought it, and the dog was terrified, and it wanted to be some, like, I don't know how to handle this dog. So I closed my door to my
Okay.
bedroom, and the dog was like not having it, not having it.
Uh-huh.
So I said, okay, all right, I'm going to put you in the bathroom. And I locked that door, and the dog was not having it. And I was like, oh, okay. So, and it was crying. And then I'm like, oh, relax. I put blankets down, the whole deal. And finally, I said, oh, what do you want? So I opened the door and it kind of came to me. And then I put a blanket by my bed, and then that's all it wanted, right? But then didn't want a blanket on the floor. It wanted to be on the bed. So I was like, oh, wait a minute. So that was my first experience with this incredible dog who had zero training, right? And then, of course, and like you came home, and there was that. So the reason I got the cage is because I said, how do I handle this dog when I'm away? So I said, okay, I'm going to get a cage. I'm going to make sure I walk it, and I come back, and I make it comfortable. And then I said, okay, I don't want to keep it in a cage. I didn't want to cage the dog. So I used to walk it a lot. And so one day I come home, like you, there wasn't a smell. I couldn't see my floor. I couldn't see my floor. And I'm like, and I had a book. I had books. There were no books left.
Oh.
No books. It must have read everything. It became the smartest dog I could tell you, because there was paper everywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It was, I mean, literally everywhere. And I was like, what did you do? It was crazy. So I wasn't one that I'm going to punish it, because, hey, I figured it got lonely, it got bored, it didn't know what to do, and it must have had a blast.
Yeah.
So it obviously, I was like, besides laughing, I was like, oh no, I got all these books that I thought I enjoyed, but the dog enjoyed them more than me. So that led me to more training, more looking up stuff, and how do I train this dog? So I can definitely feel your pain. And then, so you wanted to know what I need help, right?
Yeah, you described it perfectly. When you get furious, there's a moment where you could just go emotional. You could get curious and be like, well, did I take him for a walk? Did I meet his needs in a certain way? And dogs aren't doing anything to be spiteful. They just ripped out the book to have fun, you know?
Yeah.
So Man, it is very important that our dogs' needs are getting met, and it's also important to know that dogs aren't doing anything intentional. It's just they're just dogs being dogs, man.
Yeah.
So I remember a story with Fuchsia was one of my toughest clients, and I grew up in a big family, so I'm used to a lot of messes. And this dog, to give you some background, she would run away a lot. She didn't really like toys or food as much, and she didn't get along really well with the cats at the house. There's two other cats there and her. And there was she would like growl or nip at the cat sometimes. So I came into it kind of anticipating the worst, right? Like what's going on in this house. And I grew up in a big family, so I'm used to a lot of chaos. And I walk into this house, and the first thing I noticed is there's a lot of clutter and spaces are really tight. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense why there's some growling and nipping going on, because I saw the dogs and cats pass each other and they're like touching shoulders. And I was like, if I go to Disneyland and people start bumping my shoulders, I'm like, can I get some space up here? Like, back up. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I noticed that when they would go outside, her favorite game was to grab a toy and to run away from them, which is like cool if you have a backyard. But if you're anywhere else, it's a really dangerous game because your dog learns like, I don't come when you call me. I run away from you and you chase me until you catch me, right? And dogs are really fast. So that was a problem for them. And then the cats thing, right? These dogs and the cats, they would normally eat next to each other. And then sometimes there would be fights and it was unpredictable. And it would like, they're like, we just got to rehome the dog, right? And that's what my family did. They just got rid of the dog when they couldn't handle it. And I was like, okay, like, let's talk about some of these things, because dog training isn't all dog training. There's the ecology of dog training, kind of how everything works together. So the first thing I did is I helped them clean the house, and we separated their spaces and we cleared out some space so they each had their own space where they could like go and chill and disconnect from people if they needed to. And being with lots of family. Yeah, exactly. I went to my room a lot as a kid. I'll go build Legos and do stuff and get away from all my siblings, and they weren't allowed in my room, you know?
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, tell me.
Before you go on, and I'm loving, the analogies and how we have to think about that we need space, they need space. But you came home, and I'm still thinking of that episode where, there was poop and there was a book is ripped. And then you said, I need help.
Yeah.
So you sought help. Tell us about that, because I think that's probably what geared you to say, wait, I can do this too. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So I went out and I found help from Susan Garrett, who's a 7+ time world agility champion, and she's done it with multiple dogs, right? Which is important to me because that means she doesn't just have one lucky dog. She's done this with multiple dogs, so it's repeatable. And the first thing I learned was crate training, to teaching them how to have a space, because that's another safety thing, right? If your dog's out and they eat something, I watched a video the other day and they pulled out like 3 socks, a pair of underwear, a t-shirt, and it's like, how did you eat all these things and why didn't you stop? Like the dog is lucky he didn't die, and the dog was okay, which is a miracle. But it's insane the stuff that they ingest. So that was a huge one. So crate training was the first thing. And then coming when called is also another safety one. So she has many programs, and I spent thousands of dollars learning how to create these associations, which they're really quite easy. Dogs are only doing things for 2 reasons. They're doing it to gain pleasure or to avoid pain. And so our job as leaders is to help them associate what things are pleasurable and what things are painful. So growing up as a kid, if someone were to come over to my house and go, can Brady come play? My mom would look at me, and this would be grandma's rule. And this is what I apply for dog training too. She would look at me and she goes, is your room clean? And if my room is clean, I'm good. I can go play. If it wasn't clean, nah, I ain't gonna go play today, man. I'm sorry. But whose fault was that? Was it my mom's fault? That was my fault. Like, I had a choice to clean up my room or to leave it messy. And so there's pain associated in that, because now Brady made a mistake. So now Brady can't go hang out with his friends. And mom isn't doing anything besides just enforcing the rules. There has to be rules in order for there to be success in life. And I know you're a martial arts guy. I'm a martial arts guy. you got to line up in order from like rank
Mm.
from white belt to black belt, right? Normal black belts are sitting in the front to brown belt, but there's rules, and if you don't follow the rules, you get a little dirty look sometimes. So people are like, dude, get your ass in like in the back of the line. And you don't talk while the teacher's talking, right? There's no like whispering to your friend. There's rules that you got to follow. There's structure to it. And so that was the rule that I learned from Susan Garrett that I started implementing with my dog. And with crate training, right, this is one that I go through a lot, is how do you get a dog to stop barking in their crate? And what I do is I have a blanket and I put the blanket over their crate. And when they start barking, I just put the blanket down. And so they lose their privilege of being able to see out the crate. And as soon as they stop, I lift the blanket back up. There's no shaking the crate or yelling at the dog or anything like that. It's just a blanket, right? But it's very clear communication of like, nope, this is not acceptable. This is acceptable. And we just have like a little tennis match going back and forth until the dog's like, well, barking makes the blanket go down. That's kind of painful. And being quiet means it's up and I can see everything going on. That's kind of fun. So I'd rather be quiet than I would rather bark. And so we're just having little conversations throughout the day, showing them like, this is what happens if you bark. This is what happens if you don't bark. And then, of course, the treats and the rewards. And there's many ways to reward your dog, like I just mentioned. But that's how I began.
So you did this for your own dog.
Exactly.
What made you say, huh, I can train other dogs too? What was that moment for you? What was that aha moment?
That aha moment was, it was a day or two after my birthday, and I was working a big boy 9-to-5 job at an insurance company, and they called me into the office on this Monday and they say, Brady, you don't got to work your late shift today. You were the last one hired, and you're the first one that we have to let go. We're doing layoffs right now, and this is 2019, and I was like, I thought you guys didn't wish me a happy birthday because you guys didn't wish me a happy birthday before I left. But this is, I guess, this is okay. Cool. So I guess I'll pack up my stuff. And at that point, I had my dog for a year and a half now, almost 2 years. And I had already been helping friends and family a little bit when things had come up, because I had gone through my own journey. And so I was just sharing. And I decided that why not start charging for something that I enjoyed, and people were asking me for help, and I was starting to get referrals from people, but I would just charge, I would do it for free a lot of the time, or $25, because like there was this belief, like, who am I to train someone's dog, right? And I was able to help them overcome things with crate training, coming when called, and it did not go as well as it goes now. There's definitely a lot more hurdles to jump through and some growing pains to figure out how to talk to the people, right? Because I can understand like how to get the dog to do something, but then the people, they're like, I don't feel like doing it today. I'm like, what do you mean you don't feel like doing it today? Like, isn't it important that your dog doesn't get hit by a car? Like, come on.
Right.
So, so I had to learn how to talk to the people, how to communicate to the dog. So that's how I began. And then COVID obviously happened. So I pivoted to Zoom lessons, and I was doing that for a while before like things opened back up, but that was its own journey, because it's luckily I worked at Apple, and when you work at Apple, they teach you how to be very precise with your words and how to direct people to fix things on the screen. Because if you just take someone's phone and you fix it and you give it back to them, they're going to be back tomorrow. So it's really important that people know how to fix their own problems. And you have to get really good at like, can you go to the top right of your screen, click the settings button, now scroll to the bottom, and like directing them through these things. So I took people through Zoom lessons where I'm like, okay, raise your hand, wave to your dog, say search, grab the treat, now toss it to them. Okay, now we're going to train. So taking them through these things. And now I charge for a process, right? I was just charging a la carte at first. Now I take people through a 3-month process where I help them crate train their dog, walking on leash, coming when called. We learn tricks like roll over or spin. There's dog meditation to help them calm down. There's all sorts of stuff that I've taken from my journey now, and I give to people over these 3 months to help them transform into the leader their dog needs them to be.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that you constantly keep saying is you talk to the dog, you had to talk to the people. So for me, communication is everything. I want to share something with you. Take a look. We have an event coming up this Friday. Take a look.
Welcome to Speaking Prowess, where we believe in the power of communication to transform lives. If you're ready to take your communication skills to the next level, then mark your calendars for April 5th, because we've got something special for you. We have a lineup of some of the most influential communication experts in the industry. These are the voices that will guide you on a journey to enhance your ability to connect, influence, and succeed. At Speaking Prowess, our mission is clear: to empower you through effective communication. We know that mastering the art of communication isn't just about what you say. It's about how you say it and the impact it has on every aspect of your life. So take action now. Join us on April 5th and unlock your full speaking potential. Reserve your spot today and get ready to embark on a journey towards personal and professional growth. See you at the masterclass on April 5th.
Yeah, fun stuff. So communication, it's very interesting when people don't realize that. And you said that dogs understand so many different commands. And one of the things, I was actually speaking with somebody recently, and I said, we humans, we're the only ones that can plan, that we can think ahead. And animals, they only plan for the meal. Like, oh, I see that, I gotta figure out how to go get it, right, and go eat it. And you said that it's based on fear and reward, right? And if I do this, oh, this happened. If I do this, this happens. So that's the commands that a lot of people don't realize, that if they get good at it, they can communicate with their dogs so much better, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's very important that you recognize that humans are the only ones that can imagine, right? And so we can actually go in someone else's brain and be like, what would they want to hear about, right? Or how would they respond to this thing? Mm-hmm. So it is very unique skills. Dogs are just doing things because in the moment it feels good to them. Right. And communication is important. I think everyone should have a dog before they have a kid, because there's certain things you got to figure out first. Teaching words for dogs is something that took me like 3 years to figure out, to like kind of be like, how do you get a dog to understand, like sit down, roll over, and how do you get them to do these things? And really, it's all just involved in a sequence. And if I give you all the ingredients to a cake and I told you to make a cake and you put everything in a bowl, would it look like a cake? No. Probably wouldn't, right? And dog training is very similar in that there's a process that you got to go through in order to connect with the animal. And for humans, it's the same. And the first thing I do with any animal is I connect and I appreciate their world. I understand their mind, body, and spirit. So I understand what their needs are. I think there's 6 human needs. I'm a big Tony Robbins guy, right? I understand their mind beliefs, right? Their meta programs. If they're a moving towards person or a moving away person, do they move more towards pleasure or more towards pain? Some people only do things if they have the pain that their dog could die, right? Mm-hmm. Like your dog could get hit by a car. They're like, oh, that's painful. I don't want that to happen, right? Some people move because they like pleasure. And I go, look at the agility. Look at all these cool things your dog could do. And like, oh, that's amazing. I'm going to do that, right? Dogs are the same way. And we want to be elegant with how we're using pain. It's not like I'm like holding a stick above their owner. I'm like, do this thing now. It's like, I could put them in arm bar if I wanted to. Like, I'm not going to, because it's unnecessary. Right. We're more elegant than that. I believe everyone here listening is more elegant like that, because you're here right now. And with that being said, it's important that we hold people accountable and we show them that these rules are important. So if a dog does something wrong, right, there are timeouts, but the timeouts have only been proven effective for a very short time, like 30 seconds to a minute. And I was the kid, I would stand in the corner, no exaggeration, for 2 freaking hours. And like, I would just stay in there, man, because I did something bad. I've broken my sister's arm on accident, and I've gotten my siblings hurt, right? Like stupid stuff, Brady. Anyways, that was some of the memories coming back to me, stupid stuff. Uh, but anyways, you have to connect and appreciate their world, and then you have to connect again and get leverage. So you have to know these what drives them if they're moving towards or moving away person. And then we got to go through and interrupt the patterns and define the problem in solvable terms. And taking them through these steps is important because you can't help anyone if you don't take the time to connect and appreciate the world. You're just going to start giving them advice, and they're like, I didn't ask you for advice. I don't care about your advice. I'm not going to take it. And you're like, well, you just wasted all of your breath now.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. So how do you work with a dog who's a biter, who it's very interesting because as a kid, and I'm not afraid of dogs, but I was attacked by dogs. I was attacked by guard dogs because I was at a family function, and it was in South America in Colombia, and they had literally a moat. Right? It was like the interior of the
Escobar type
home.
stuff.
It was a huge house. I mean, there was courtyards and all these different things, and on the perimeter they had all these guard dogs. And we were kids. We were playing in one of the courtyards, and somebody said, "Somebody left the door open, and here come the dogs." And so what wound up happening is all of us kids run towards there's a door that we all know we have to get into the house, right? Or at least one of the homes that were there. And we all run, and my brother got so scared he closed the door behind him, and there I am.
No.
Poof! I hit the door, and guess what? The dogs started attacking, and they started biting me in my back, all on my back. And it was 4 dogs actually, and they were attack dogs, kind of. So thank God there was no adult nearby that who could control the dogs. Came out, got the dogs off me. I had to be on my belly for a while because they had to like clean me up, put ointments on me, and all this kind of stuff. And then here's the funny thing I remember. I remember looking sideways. I'm on a bed, and I see the dogs going up the stairs like they're cowering because they did something wrong.
Yeah.
They were doing their job, right? Because that's what they were trained. And they were yelling at them, and I see the dogs going up the stairs, and I'm like, oh, I felt bad for them. I'm like, oh, they were just doing, and I'm only like 7.5 years old when this
You
happened.
got a
Right?
big heart, yeah.
But for me, you know, I didn't feel afraid of them. It just, hey, you know what? They didn't know who I was, right?
Yeah.
And at another time, I got attacked as well. It was my brother was in the driveway, and he was at his girlfriend's house. So I went to go say hi to my brother, and I didn't know she had a dog. So I'm on the outside. The dog, my brother came out, and then the dog ran behind my brother and just started mauling me in my shoulder and bit my bicep. And I was like, whoa. And then, you know, his girlfriend came out and got the dog off me.
Sure.
Still, I'm not afraid of dogs. And it wasn't because so for me, I understand that the dog was being a guard dog. He was guarding her, right? Once again, I'm a young guy. I'm probably 11 years old at this point.
Okay.
So this is the second time before my 14th birthday, if you will, that I've been attacked by guard dogs. And still I'm like, oh, look at that dog. It's so cute. And no matter how big the dog is, I've even had to break up dogs from a fight, making sure that they're not killing each other, because one dog had the other one by the ear and was trying to rip his ear off. There was blood flying. So I'm there trying to pull and it was a Doberman, not a pincher, I'm sorry. It was a shepherd versus a, oh my God, the one with the big head.
There's lots with big heads, like a
Black,
pit bull or something?
it's black, and it's it almost looks like a pit bull, but it's like 2 times the size of a pit bull.
Okay. Maybe like a
So-
bully breed or something.
Yeah, they were trying to kill each other. I was like, no, I'm pulling here. And at the time, my girlfriend is pulling the other one because they both were in the garage. They had them in the garage on chains. One got
Mm.
loose, and they went for each other. And they were guard dogs too. Here we go, a guard. I'm older at this point. I'm in my 20s,
Yeah.
but and I wouldn't get bit or anything. But one of the things that um, one of the dogs had the ear, it was constant bleeding, and she's like, "Oh my God, what do I do?" I go, "You have coffee?" She's like, "You want coffee now?" I'm like, "No, no, not for me, for the dog." You're gonna give the dog coffee? No, so I need the grounds. So I put coffee on the dog, and it stopped the bleeding. Right? Same. You could do the same thing with sugar. You can do. So this is a trick that my dad taught me when I was younger,
Cool.
and dogs stopped bleeding. Right?
Yeah.
But so for me, it's always about they're innocent, right?
Yeah.
They act certain ways because they've been trained. So my question to you, and I'll say it again, is how do you stop a dog from biting its owners or people in general?
Yeah, we're diving deep into it, and I appreciate you sharing your story. So you shared a lot of details that people are really listening deeply about some ways you can overcome a dog bite. And like you pointed out, like the funny thing about this is, which means
Mm,
your brain is looking for funny things. Some people are like, it's only scary, right? And it's like, well, if you were to remember, there's probably some funny things back there. You may
yeah.
not want to remember them because your brain deleted them, but if you were to try, you could find them. So that's the first step, because I work with people who've also been bitten, and I've been bitten before, and this is my job, and I got to make sure I go out there and I help this dog to stop biting, and also I can continue it. I'm not like, I don't want to get bit again, you know?
Right.
So emotionally, you got to be able to like stop that pattern and create a new pattern. And for dogs, it's very similar in the sense that they're having an emotional response to something, and they go in their fight, flight, or freeze. So you are able to go back into your rest or digest, right? Your parasympathetic nervous system, and understand that there's other things going on. You're able to become more thoughtful. And for dogs, we want them to have that same ability. Now, if you're training a protection dog versus a dog who just is aggressive and bites, it's a little bit different.
Right.
And you could even utilize that skill, and you could turn a dog who bites into a protection dog. And that's what some protection trainers do. Utilization is a very powerful method, right? If someone's a fighter, they could go take boxing lessons or jujitsu and learn how to fight elegantly, and then it tames them a little bit. I don't have to walk around thinking I have to fight anyone anymore, because I already know what I'm capable, and I already have my place that I go and do that at, right?
Mhm.
So dogs could use the same sort of guidance. So if you do have a dog that's aggressive, you could look into protection classes, because it is natural to the dog to bite things and to chase things. They're prey animals. And then we got to find a word and show them how to let go of things, right? And that's where like playing with a toy and drop it becomes really important. But if I'm just working with someone's dog and they don't want to do protection, they just want their dog. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'll make sure everyone's safe. Like safety is like a lot more priority. So what
Mhm.
that looks like is, I'm going to make sure I got bite-proof gloves on when I'm handling the dog, to make sure that these are safe, the owners are safe. And then we're going to work on training wearing a muzzle, because we got to make sure, like, if we're introducing them to other places, other people, like they're all safe as well. So, and we want our dog to enjoy wearing this too. We don't want it to be viewed as a punishment. We want this to be viewed as a tool to help our dog grow through things and work through their emotions. And if it's really bad, I would recommend consulting your vet to get some calming medicine for your dog too, if it's like really, really way over the top.
Mm.
But then from there, we have to start changing the association. And a lot of the times, aggressive dogs, I see dogs turn aggressive because as puppies, maybe something's a little bit scary to them, a little bit uncomfortable, and they'll growl at it to tell it to move away. And the thing doesn't listen, and they keep going. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's another dog, and they start messing with the dog, right? It may not be in the bad way, but the dog doesn't like it, right? And if I'm not a hugger, which I am, but if I wasn't, and someone came and gave me a hug and I wasn't a hugger, I would maybe get a little bit upset, you
Mm.
know? So we want to start changing that association for a dog and showing them like the positive sides of it, and start changing that association. But if you were to hug me and I got upset at first without doing that, I might punch you, right? I might do something to you that wouldn't be very nice. And it wouldn't be your fault. I mean, it kind of would. I'm just doing what I would do, you know? So we have to change this association. So the first thing is safety stuff like muzzles and bite-proof gloves or crate training. And then we have to start changing the emotion behind it, which emotional problems are different than training your dog how to ride a skateboard or how to paint. Those things you can condition it until it sticks. Emotional problems, you can think about it like you and I are talking on a public stage right now, and it seems like you have other speakers here. And most people are good talking one-on-one or even one to a few, like 3 to 5, maybe 10 people. But if you take that same person with that confidence and stick them in front of a basketball-sized stadium, you know, they emotionally may go to a different place.
Right.
And they have all the skills, but emotionally they need to flip the switch, right? To have that groundedness in them, which is a whole nother set of skills, right? And so the dogs, you can teach them how to do certain things, right? Like touching their nose to your hand or how to sit or how to do these things that are a lot of fun. And you want to have these things in your back pocket that your dog, when you ask them to do this thing, they're like, oh, this is a lot of fun. I want to do this thing because it's just a lot of fun, right? And then what you want to do is you want to go to the place where emotionally it's a bit overwhelming for them, right? And you want to find that threshold of where it's like, it is overwhelming, but it's not an NFL sized stadium. You know, maybe it's a few hundred people, right? And we're going to build up to that. And then what you want to do is you want to start setting off these anchors at the same time. And so we're trying to collapse the anchor or counter condition the dog or the person. So if you have something like I have my incantations, before I got on this podcast, I say, I now control my unconscious mind to direct me in helping as many people as possible today.
Nice.
But I go through this whole thing, right? So if I ever need confidence, I can say this thing and I say it with so much passion. I change my physiology. I can get out of any uncomfortable state whenever I want to. And we want our dogs to have that same type of ability by just playing games with us. And when you play games, it uses a different part of your mind that you can't go to fear in, right? So the goal is, if you're ever afraid or if your dog's ever attacked, go play a game with them. Like, you have to play to stop the replay of like the PTSD. And so we want them to stop replaying that bad memory. So what I do is I take them into this uncomfortable situation and then I play something that they have a really good memory with. And I start showing them that this means this. This means this. Right. So seeing this dog now means happy things. And obviously I'm oversimplifying this in some ways, but this is like the basic psychology. And then you have to condition it until it sticks, right? Like we do this day after day with a dog to build up the repetitions to be like, this really is a good thing, right? These other people or these dogs are good. And then the other side of it, protection work, is you got to train the dog. This is like you're putting it on cue, right? Same with boxing or fighting. You teach them when to bite, when it's okay, and then you teach them how to stop. Like when someone taps, it's done. There's no, you keep choking the person. If someone taps you, it's done, right? And so we need a dog to understand like what's the tap out, and it's like me saying drop it or releasing, and that just starts with playing tug and playing with the toy, another game, right? So we want our dog to bite on command, release on command, and then change the association of this is a good thing for me. This is a fun game that we can play, and start changing that association between like, now you only attack when I say you attack, and you don't want to attack because these are good people to you and not scary people that you have to protect yourself and go to that fight, flight, or freeze moment. Does that help?
Without a doubt, that was incredible. So let me ask you a question. You're talking, I'm like, you talked about words, commands, all of these different things. So I'm imagining you go, like I adopted my dog. I don't know where that dog came from. I just knew, I know that the dog's name was Edelweiss. I'm like, who names their dog that? So I looked at the dog and I said, "You're Domino." This is black and white, right? It was a cool looking dog. It was a black lab mixed with a collie or something like that. And it was a cool look, really cool looking dog. And yes, it was a mutt, but it was my mutt, right? And super cool. And so what would have, and I'm thinking that dogs can be bilingual,
Mhm.
right? Or multilingual, linguistic, because
Mhm.
what winds up happening is if a Chinese family owned a dog and they gave it up for adoption and I adopted it and I'm speaking either Spanish or English or both or maybe French or whatever it is, and then does that dog, does it, how long does it take before it starts to understand? Is it the guides? Is it the movements? Is it understand, okay, food because it smells it, right? So all these different things are going through my head right now. And I can see how easy it is for a dog to adapt, much easier than a human.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And dogs are capable of learning multiple languages. And this is quite fun to talk about because my girlfriend's Colombian. She was
Oh,
born and
really?
raised in Cali, Colombia.
Okay.
Um, and so like our dogs know shake or pata, right? Like paw,
Yeah.
or come or venga. And
Right.
so there's different words, and the important things to recognize, and it goes back to what you're saying about humans and imagining, and these words that we're using, how we're communicating right now, they're just symbols. And if I were to see a cow, that's different than me saying cow or vaca in Spanish, right? And so we want our dog to understand the behavior, like putting their butt on the ground is sit. They don't care what sit means to us or santate, or it could be potato, right? They don't really care what the word is. They just need to know the behavior. So for me, the most important part of the formula is getting the behavior. When I can get the behavior, it's really easy to put a word on it. And
Mm,
so teaching a dog to come when called, I was teaching you like I wave my hand and then I say search and I grab a treat and I toss a treat, right? That's the first game I teach the dog, and I'll say search and I'll toss a treat into a corner of a room, and then I'll run to the other side of the room and I'll say pup 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 pup, and then they chase me across the other side of the room, and then I'll say search and I'll drop a treat and I'll run to the other side of the room. So now I'm getting them to chase me, and I'm saying pup 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 behind it, and I'm anchoring this tone
mm,
to this behavior of chasing me really really fast. And I want to make sure they're chasing me really fast and not just like caught kind of lollygagging behind me, because if I assign a word to that behavior, that's going to be what I get every time. So I
mm.
want to make sure that I have a good behavior before I tell them like this is the word that means it. Now, once you have the behavior defined, you could add a million words if you wanted to. That'd be a lot of words, and I only said 165. But maybe
Yeah.
you could add like for me for sit. When I teach a dog how to sit, there's like 3 or 4, maybe 5 ways that I can ask them to sit. Like I could
Mm,
snap, and that means sit. I could
right.
say sit. I could just jingle the latch on the crate. That means sit. I can clap. That means sit. If I'm in my car, I can knock on the back window. That means sit. And all of these things mean sit. But the way I train it is, say I have a brand new things, like I want to train potato to mean sit, and they already know how to sit. I would say the word that they don't know first, or for your dog's name, it would be domino, right?
Mm.
So you would say domino, and then you would say the word that they do know, which is, what was his first name? Eloise or something?
Yeah, it was that name, Eloise.
Eloise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would say the word that they do know, and then you would transfer the name that they don't know to the name that, or the name that they know to the name that they don't know. So you would say domino, you take a breath, you say Eloise, and that should trigger them to come. If they haven't learned how to come, then we got to go back a step. But
Mm,
you would just say the word that they don't know first, and then the word that they do know, because then they're anticipating. So if I were to go, hey, Sifu, I'm going to, I don't even tell you this, right? I just take my hand and I just start to swing, right?
right,
If you
right.
don't have this behavior of how to like duck or slip the punch, you're going to get punched.
Oh,
But if
yeah.
I go, hey, I'm going to punch you, heads up, and I go like this and I start to swing, you're probably going to duck. And
Yeah.
if I do
Let's
that 3
get
times
up.
in a row, yeah, let's go. You just give me a quick jab, you know? Uh, Doing that in that order, if I go duck and then I
Mm,
swing, and then I go duck and then I swing, guess what? You're going to learn pretty quick what duck means.
yeah.
So it's saying the word that they don't know and then say the word that they do know, and then that's the behavior. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, without that, I love the association with the action, right? The word association refers to an action. If I
Mhm.
say jump, you jump. If I say duck, you duck.
Yeah.
And so a lot of, I guess, the training is teaching and associating the words with the actions. And I applaud you for being so exceptional and understanding dog language.
Mhm.
Because not everybody can get it. Listen, we ran out of time, but man, I am having a blast. I know you're coming on the show, Business Prowess, on this Friday. I'm looking forward to that. And now we're going to talk about the business of dogs. Right?
I love
So
it.
thank you so much for being here with me today. And anybody who is interested, how can they get in touch with you, Brady?
The best way is through my Instagram. So my company is New Direction Dog Training. And on Instagram and TikTok, it's N as in Nancy, D as in Drew Dog Training. So ND Dog Training. And again, I'm sharing tips and tricks of how I'm teaching my dog how to ride a skateboard. She's like
Nice.
about 35 days into it now, so you could watch that journey. And then
That's
how to teach your dog other tricks and all sorts of different stuff. So give me a follow on there. And if you DM me book club, I have a book club that I read books, right? Because I feel like if readers are leaders, we'll go through and break these down, share our wins, and you can share problems with me, and I help you how I would overcome them. Or if you DM me Dream Dog, I'll send you my PDF with some games that'll get you started.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, my friend. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you on Friday. Everybody
Mhm.
have yourself an exceptional day. And don't forget, Friday, we also have the masterclass. Take
Mhm.
care, everybody. Take care, Brady. Thank you.